Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Joining me today is Phil Soper, president and CEO of Royal LePage. Thanks, Phil, for taking the time.
My pleasure.
All right, we're going to talk about the 2025 market survey put out by Royal LePage. Tell me where prices are going next year in the market.
Sure. Well, after a few years of very unusual volatility, way down at the beginning of the pandemic, unheard of heights during the pandemic when housing became everything, schools, restaurants, workplaces. We had to go through a market correction, accelerated or made deeper by the central banks' high interest rates that they needed to implement to combat inflation. So 2025, we see a return to, at least in numbers, if not in the feeling you get from a geopolitical standpoint, normality. Over the last 50, 75 years, home prices in Canada have appreciated at between 5 and 6% per annum. And we are seeing, in aggregate, Canadian home prices rising at that 6% number in 25.
What about sales? Where's that going?
Yeah, I actually went back and looked at the significant market corrections that we've come out of this quarter century. So it would have been after the financial crisis, 2010, 2013, the beginning of 2020, after the implementation of the national mortgage stress test, which caused a market correction in 1819. In each case, the bump in volume was very similar to the bump in home prices. So I would say volumes are going to see an uplift between 6 and 10% next year, off quite low numbers in our two busiest cities, Vancouver and Toronto.
Okay. And inventory, where were you at with that this coming year?
Yeah, good question. Interestingly, it's the first-time home buyer who obviously doesn't contribute to inventory that has been missing over the last couple of years. So volumes nationally have been very, very low, back to 2008 levels, and that's on a non-population adjusted basis.
Yeah.
And so when we look at what's going to occur in 2025, we do see those existing homeowners who have been trying to sell their home and who have been listing their homes since the spring of 24. We see them finally being able to sell their properties, because real estate is a cycle. You need those entry-level homes to be purchased by first-time home buyers to allow those people to be move-up buyers. So inventory is strong, but it should get eaten up in 2025.
Now, over the last few years, there's been a lot of talk about rentals out in the market, and that's becoming a popular choice and for economic reasons, but also lifestyle reasons. How is that impacted, especially now too, with rental prices quite high, and significantly higher than they have been in the past? How does that impact the resale market for homes in Canada?
You're absolutely right. Rental prices were up some 8.3% this year through to the fall of 24, whereas home prices were on purchase were basically flat. So it was a more challenging time for renters, partially because the real estate investor, the small landlord, found it such a difficult time over the past couple of years with underlying property values not appreciating and mortgage rates so high. So renters have had a tough time. There is a lot of efforts underway at the municipal, provincial, and federal levels to put more rental stock into the nation.
Yeah.
And so particularly probably in the GTA, we'll see the biggest change in Southern Ontario as quite a bit of housing stock, rental housing stock rolls in. But honestly, no matter what builders are doing in the purpose-built rental space or in the build for purchase space, we're not keeping up with demand. Housing supply remains one of the big social issues of our time. And while we're making some progress, it's nowhere near enough. So rents, unfortunately, will remain high. Purchase prices, while they've been flat for a couple of years, are unlikely to stay that way, as you see in our forecast.
All right. Wonderful. Thanks, Phil, for taking the time.
You take care, Mario. Best of the season.
All right. That was Phil Soper, President and CEO of Royal LePage. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Podcast. Thanks for joining us today.